Today I'm joined with Peter Kavanagh from the Leaders Romans Group. So Peter, transaction times, why are they as long as they are at the moment?
Oh, I mean, look, it's a really interesting question to ask. I think it's not a straightforward answer. I think there are a number of things that I think have contributed to the change over the last probably 10 to 15 years. It's been gradually getting worse. I think probably the big bit for me, going back a while, was I think we all used to deal with a lot more people in person that we knew, so a lot more solicitors. There was a lot more access to mortgage lenders, and I think then we knew that you could talk to different people in the chain, and if you had a problem, even if it wasn't your part of the chain, you probably knew the solicitor involved and you could go to them direct. Mm-hmm. I think what has changed is we've moved away a lot more from personal contact to email contact. We don't know all the people, and therefore I think the relationships that we probably had no longer exist. So from my point of view, it's that change in how we communicate is probably the first big point for me, Amy. I think along with that, I also feel that from a society point of view, we're a lot less risk adverse than we used to be. So I think, I used to hear a lot of people say that, I knew a solicitor who would take a view on something. I don't think anyone takes a view now. I think everyone quite understandably wants to make sure that they've covered everything properly before they're prepared to advise their client to go forward. So I think there's that, and I just think unfortunately the demand for conveyances is huge, and I think the supply is low. We seem to have lost an awful lot of conveyances out of the market in the last year. So it's a combination of a number of things, but for me those would be the main points.
Okay, fantastic. So I mean, people at the moment in the industry press are talking about the relationship between conveyancers and estate agents being the problem. Is it really?
I mean, sometimes it is. I mean, again, going back to what I said to you, we used to deal a lot more with local people. It's not uncommon now to think there are solicitors or conveyancers in the chain that nobody knows. So we've never dealt with them before. I think I saw the other day, I think it's right, who said that the number of people now working from home has increased from £5 to £10 million. So we're also dealing with people who are working remotely. So it's just seems to be harder to get hold of people, to build relationships and get responses very quickly.
Yeah, totally agree. It's interesting how it's almost changed since I used to do sales progression. And actually I really sort of resonate with what you said about email. Sort of when I first started my career, it was very much phone-based. And then leaving, it was the solicitors would actually say, can you send me an email, rather than pick up the phone to the solicitors. So it's interesting that that's changed as well. So what's changed in the market to lengthen transaction times in the way that they have? What's changed in the property market?
Well, I mean, I think there's not one thing. That's the challenge I think that we have. It just seems to take longer for everything to happen. So, I think again, we all go back to when we first started, how the process used to work, but it's just very different now. And so I think if you break it down, I think it can take longer for searches to come back. I think from a solicitor point of view, we just don't get the response probably to inquiries as quickly as we did. I don't think it all sits with conveyances as well. I think that we all have challenge around buyers. Are they always as upfront with us as they could be? We all hear about the fact that so-and-so is a cash buyer, and then we're 8 weeks in and find out that they're actually going to have to borrow some money now, and then we almost have to go back and start again. So, transparency of the process is a big challenge for all of us. And as I say, just the fact that I think you can't talk to people as easily as you could before, and people won't take a view on things, has just stretched it right out. Yeah,
it's interesting what you say about buyers, and I certainly found throughout my agency that actually the pressure from the general public and our buyers and sellers got greater. They had higher expectations of the service level, higher wants and needs for that constant communication with you. And that I know that obviously the move management team at LRG really struggle with kind of on a day-to-day basis.
It's really hard because I can't. Well, there isn't another transaction that you do that involves other parties. You know, if you go and buy a car, you buy a car from a person or a dealer. You know, the finance is sorted, you get it quickly. You know, in terms of housing, there's nothing like that. There are other people involved who you don't know.
Yeah.
You know, we now transact. The majority of people we transact with, we never meet. You know, that didn't used to happen. So it's really, I think it's a combination of all those things that have really led to this becoming just a really protracted experience for people.
Talking about the team you've got here at head office, I mean, what are their sort of main frustrations with the process, especially at the moment?
Well, I would say that their main frustration will be is you are trying to work your way up or down a chain to get information which is affecting, you know, the purchase or the sale that we've made. So it's just the lack of communication that you can get through the chain. And I think sometimes we feel that you know, we've got a proper commitment, we've got a sales progression team who work on that, but sometimes you feel that you are doing sales progression for other people as well.
Yeah, I certainly remember those days.
So, and that doesn't change.
Yeah.
You know, if anything, I'd say that's probably got a bit worse as well.
So do you actually have other buyers and sellers in the chain actually contacting you guys and your department to get almost updates on their section of the chain?
You know, because in the end, I think as humans, we go to somewhere where you think you can get some information. So in the way that people from our sales progression team are going to reach out to try and get information, you then start a dialogue with other people. So then those people start to come back to you to see if you can help them with their challenges as well. Yeah,
okay. So the sort of the lack of sort of transparency up and down the chain at the moment is causing
I think
it's
completely that lack of transparency. I also think that a lot of people you know, who did work in conveyancing are probably not working in it anymore, and I think you know that we're definitely short-staffed in terms of the number of people who are experienced conveyancers or solicitors who can just help to push a transaction through.
Okay. What do you think your team need here to actually be able to work more efficiently and effectively?
Well, it's almost going to be a reverse of everything I said to you at the beginning. I mean, we would like to be able to get more direct access and conversations to understand where lenders are in their process. We'd like to have more access to the other solicitors in the chain to be able to get, I suppose, quicker answers and to understand if there are problems, what are the problems, so that we can then go away and work on them. And I think, you know, because you've done it and it hasn't changed, that you get a long way into a transaction and then someone comes back and says, oh, we've got a problem with this, or, we can't get that information, or, the management company haven't responded. I think it's really, from our point of view, if you improve communication, once the sale's been agreed from, all parties in it, it would really make a difference.
Yeah, I totally agree. So we've spoken about transparency and visibility a little bit. How do you feel, or how would having sort of more visibility of the properties in a chain and the milestones sort of be more useful to you and conveyancers? What would that change, sort of being able to have that extra sort of visibility up and down the sort of the whole chain?
It'd be huge, because at least, as I said to you, if you understand what the issue is, then you all think, okay, well, either we're all wasting our time, this is never going to happen, or we can all work towards thinking, okay, is there anything any of the rest of us can do to help resolve that particular point? It's just, I think sometimes the level of sales that now fall through and have probably been falling through for a number of weeks before we find out. So you just wasted everybody's time. So from my point of view, it's just that transparency brings certainty to know whether the transaction is likely to happen or not.
It's funny you mentioned sort of fall-throughs, because that was something that really was very irritating for me when you get that phone call and they say, oh, unfortunately the sale fell out, but don't worry, we've got new buyers and here's their details, here's their name. And you kind of used to say, well, when did that sale fall out of bed?
When did it happen?
Because that could have, one agent, sorry, I'll never forget, and you said, oh, it fell out of bed 4 weeks ago. And you sat there and you're thinking, but I could have resold my link probably within a week, not 4 weeks.
The one I'd say that's probably changed a lot as well is, since the general financial crisis, quite correctly, it's become harder to borrow money. I've got no issue with that, because that is the right approach to take, but it's understanding as well that point that have they got a mortgage offer yet, and if they haven't got it, why haven't they got it? What's outstanding? What do we need to get it? I mean, and in the way that you did, dealing the guy that we do a lot of work for, we're selling his daughter's house, it's long overdue to exchange. Then you get into the whole conversation and he says, well, when do we say enough?
Yeah.
And the problem that we all have is you think, but I think they're really close. And at what point do you just give them a few more days before you call time?
Yeah,
and it's
absolutely.
really, that's the hard one for every agent, I think, to work out when you think they're not going to do it.
Yeah, enough's enough. No, well, thank you so much, Peter. It's been wonderful
it's great.
just
It's lovely
understanding a
to talk to
little
you.
bit more of the Leaders Romans Group challenges and difficulties with transaction times at the moment. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome.